Hello and welcome to the WBGO listening party for Soundprints, Other Worlds. My name is Nate Chinen. I am the editorial director at WBGO. I'm so pleased that you could join us. We are about to hear One Day Early, this magnificent album. It features Dave Douglas, Joe Lovano, Lawrence Fields, Linda Mahon-O, and Joe Barron. And immediately after the stream of this album, stick around because I will be conversing with Dave and Joe and Lawrence. And if you have any questions for any of the panelists or for me, you can feel free to enter them wherever you're watching, and we should be able to see those, and we'll get to some of those during the Q&A. So without further ado, I present to you Dave Douglas and Joe Lovano, Soundprints, Other Worlds. Whoa! Yeah, I feel like, you know, we've got the ghost applause in the room here. Look who's here. I see Lawrence Fields. I see Joe Lovano. I see Dave Douglas. And from Berlin, crashing this party, great Joey Barron. Gentlemen, welcome.
Wow, that was something else.
Yeah. So Linda Mahon-O is with us in spirit, but what a treat that we've got almost the entire band here. So I want to start by saying what an album! Congratulations to all of you. I'm going to hold it up here. Everybody saw the Dave Chisholm's cover illustration as we were streaming the album, but it's a wonderful little package. Yeah, I just wanted to start by
down. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hey, I want to thank BGO and Nate and everybody involved here, man. That was so beautiful to do. This is the first time I've done something like this. Listen to the whole recording and make some comments on it and see all these folks. Wow.
Yeah.
That was fun.
You know, it's something like catching a set, you know. Speaking of which, I wanted to begin by talking about the origins of this band, because I have especially at this moment when we're all craving the experience of sitting in a crowded club, you know, and hearing a band. This is one of those sets that I remember very, very clearly. I saw Soundprints during your first week at the Village Vanguard in 2012. And so the band had been together for a little while, but I think this was the first New York gig. And I remember going in and being excited, and then having every expectation exceeded by this band. And if you'll permit me, I dug up the review that I wrote. And I'm gonna.
I thought you were going to say
Dave.
you had a boot. I thought you were going to say you had a bootleg.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a listening party for the bootleg later. So permit me to read the lead of this review as a jumping off point, because I think it says a few things that are still true, and a few things that may have changed. So here we go. The defining trait of Soundprints, the newish quintet making its New York debut this week at the Village Vanguard, is the tangled crosstalk of its front line, an urbane, off-the-fly counterpoint brimming with crooked urgency, like a choice bit of dialogue in a David Mamet play. In this case, the sparring partners are the saxophonist Joe Lovano and the trumpeter Dave Douglas, who share leadership of the band and compose all of its music. Their rapport seemed all but inexhaustible during Thursday night's Powder Keg first set. So that right there, that's the beginning of a rave. And I think that we talk about that crosstalk, it's still true. But as we were going through this album, I was reminded of how much more since 2012 this thing has become organically like a holistic thing. Like, I don't think of it anymore as a front line and a rhythm section, because the way that Lawrence and Joey and Linda are playing, like, it's really fully integrated and totally organic. So with all of that said, like, does that make sense to you all? Do you feel like there's been that evolution too?
I think like the compositions and everything have been developing through the years, and but the focal point the whole time has been to share the space, mm-hmm. and to create some music within the music together. And when you first heard us, I think we had just come back from a tour. We might have toured once in Europe prior to that, where we really put some music together where we could, like the pieces that I brought in were like springboards into some improvisations. And that conception has stayed with the band, you know, in the way that I've been trying to write for the group. And and Dave's compositions have such different shapes, you know, and there's all these different moods that we try to sustain, you know, throughout each piece.
Yeah,
and that's been so beautiful, man, to explore and to play with that kind of openness with each other, you know.
Dave, you're gonna say something?
Well, it's hard to know what to say after hearing Joe talk. No. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's you know, it's so much about personalities and just the conversation. And I think Joe and I both write for this band, really in particular, to set up that kind of dialogue, to set up those kind of situations in different ways. I think that Joe would probably agree with me that we write differently for this band than we would for other projects that we do. And so, you know, there's a sensibility of the initial inspiration of Wayne Shorter and his music and life and philosophy, but then it's also gone deeper into the relationship between the five of us and the different things that we can bring to the stage that might create some new sorts of platforms that you might not have heard before. I think we're always sort of looking for a new way to contextualize where this music is coming from and how to do that. And, you know, so much of that is about personalities. I think that without Joey, without Lawrence, without Linda, you know, it just wouldn't be at all what it is. You know, they're all integrated right into the writing and the very conception of what we do when we go on stage.
During the stream, you know, as we talk about the compositions as springboards, there was a moment when our friend Jim Mackney commented on the beginning of Sky Miles. And Dave, you chimed in and said that this tune actually was kind of pivotal in terms of the conception of this album. Could you talk about that?
Sure. You know, we Joe and I, with each record, and this is our third one, there's sort of a different approach that we take. You know, we want them to each one have a distinct personality. And so when we began talking about this one that became Other Worlds with this beautiful artwork from Dave Chisholm, it was a matter of months of us going back and forth, thinking of different themes and different ways to approach it, and different ideas about what the repertoire could be. And then Joe, one day he called me and he said, I have this tune that I wrote and it's called Sky Miles. And just something about the way you said it, Joe, I was just like, oh, okay. Now I know what we're doing. You know, I don't want to say I mean, Space Exploration is another one of Joe's tunes, but it just set the tone for me in terms of, you know, putting this music in a space, in outer space.
Yeah.
And so it was when he came forward with that title and the concept for the tune that the rest of it sort of came together, from at least in my imagination.
Yeah. I want to throw a question to Lawrence, because there's, you know, as Dave alluded to just now, there's a lot of push-pull in the interaction of the band on this album, and there are moments when you couldn't be more locked into a swinging groove. And then there are moments when it pulls apart and abstracts, and you feel like you're sort of, you know, in outer space. And so many of those moments, I hear you like flowing, you know, whether you're flowing out or you're like locking in. I just hear your interaction in the band as so central to like all of that dynamic exchange. And so I wonder what your perspective is on that. I don't want to talk about inside versus outside, because we know that binary does not exist in this band. So I just want to talk about the dynamic exchange.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could probably say it doesn't exist in space, right? Like,
Yeah.
If you're in outer space, that's just where you are. There's no inside, there's no outside. But that is actually one of the things that I've enjoyed since the very start of this band, and still enjoy every time we play, is the fact that not only are there a lot of things that are not really clearly delineated and they're just left up to trust, but also it is one of the most unpredictable and fun musical experiences every time we play, because you never know what's going to happen. Still to this day, as many times as we played, when we start a tune, even if we played the tune 50 times before, it may come out completely differently than the last time we played it, than the last night, the last week, the last month. We could start a tune, Joe gets an idea, he goes a completely different direction, or Dave goes a different direction, or Joey plays a completely different beat. And, you know, there are all these wonderful things that can happen every night. And a lot of it is completely in the moment. And so, you know, it's fun to play with, but it's also just fun to observe and be a part of it. I'm sure we've probably all had moments where, you know, I looked across the stage at something Joey and Linda were doing, or something a place that Joe and Dave kind of went together, and we just back away and let them go, and then we come back, or, you know, Joe and Joey, or Dave and Linda, or me and Dave, or me and Joe. And so there are a million different conversations that can happen every night and every time we play, and this is really fun to kind of see what happens and catch a bit of it and be a part of it.
Yeah,
it's a real listening experience, man. Like, especially like, you know, when you're in an intimate space like the Vanguard, where we're really just right with each other, which felt like that in the studio also, you know, you're breathing together and you're really listening, and it's so fun to experience that, you know, when you're that close together. You know, on bigger stages, it's a little different, but yet it still comes together in that way because you're looking at each other at different angles, and it's a real beautiful experience. And this quintet has a lot of magic that happens.
Yeah.
Even when we just do a sound check, there's sparks that happen in sound checks that carry over into the set, you know.
Joe, you mentioned breathing together in the intimacy of the studio. This album was recorded pre-COVID, right?
Well, yeah, we played a week at the Vanguard, January 2020, and the following week went in the studio.
So yeah, just under the wire.
Yeah, I mean, it just happened like that, you know.
Yeah.
And then the post-production, which Dave is a master at, and him and I worked together through the year, and just kind of put it together with the mixing and all that, you know, kind of in a virtual way.
Yeah.
But that was also fun to do, you know, because we were listening a lot and hearing the different flow and how it could come together, you know.
Yeah. I've got a question for Joey, because as we talk about these relationships, like Lawrence said, and all the different, you know, permutations of that, Joey, you've got separate history playing with Joe and with Dave, and you know, in lots of different bands, you know, including the Stargazer tribute that Dave did to Wayne Shorter back in the '90s, and in trios with Joe and in larger groups with Joe. And so I want to ask you about your perspective when it's this combination of people. Like, is there something that feels different to you playing with these two gentlemen together, playing this music? You know, what perspective do you have there?
I'm just incredibly happy to have to be a part of this team, because I tend not to throw anything away. Like I met Joe in the 70s when we were fooling around and trying to figure out where one was at Berkeley. And I met Dave in New York in the, God, was that the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah. And through, I guess through Dave and Joe, when they were putting this together, I had the really great fortune to meet the younger generation of Lawrence and Mahan. And so when I said I don't throw anything away, I mean, I have those hours logged in my my body of all the times that we've ever played. And that's a part of whenever I play, and especially in this band. I don't try to play what I did in 80, because that's asinine. But it's part of the equation. And I'm just so incredibly thrilled to be a part of this team that provides a context to be able to take what happened previously and think freely with it and apply it to the moment and see what happens and how that can keep moving forward. That's my perspective. When I play with this band, I look up at Dave and I think, wow, you know, all the stuff that we've done, the hours that we've put in, and same with Joe. And then I look at Lawrence and Linda, you know, it's like, wow, they've got a lot of shit that I have no idea or about, but I'm learning, you know, and I'm just really thrilled to be in this particular formation, and the balance of experience and all that, I think was incredibly well thought out. Thank you, Joe and Dave.
Well, bearing down.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure, man. And
does that answer your question?
No, it's a beautiful
pretty
answer.
good, but you could carry on throughout the conversation. You know. You don't have to ask for a solo, man. You're always
No, man. It's so amazing. It's so amazing to get reminded after a year of what we've been going through. Man, it's really moving to reflect on, wow, we got to do this, and we will get to do it in some form as we move forward. You know,
Yeah.
it's thank you for for putting this out there, Dave and Joe.
Yes.
and
Greenleaf
Nate.
Music.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to, I don't want to forget, because our very first comment on YouTube, as we were just getting started, actually before we even started the stream, was from someone named Taylor Hatch, and he had a question in two parts. Which track was the most fun to record, and which song was the most challenging to finish? I think those are probably two different answers, but I wonder what you all have to say to that.
Oof. I couldn't, I wouldn't be able to break it down that way, because especially with this band, the whole thing is of a piece. It's all just one big piece of music that we're going to make, and so I wouldn't be able to approach any of the pieces differently. Like, it's all just part of one flow. And one special thing about this record is that because we'd been in the Vanguard for a week, most of the pieces are first take. So it wasn't like there were tunes that we struggled with. I mean, we did multiple takes of a couple of them, but they're mostly just first takes. The music played itself. And I think that that approach to flow was really important to us, something that Lawrence was talking about before, going on stage and not really knowing what's going to happen is a key part of it. And Joe and I have talked about this, that, like, for example, when we do a week at the Vanguard, the order of the tunes is different every set, every night. We never play the things in the same order. And I think that because the tunes bump up against each other differently, it helps us discover different aspects of what could be inside there, different ways things could happen. Also, we almost never count off the tunes. We begin with an improvisation and then find our way into the tunes. And I think that forces us to develop a more organic relationship with the material itself, that, you really have to find it. And, there's some nights where it might feel more forced than others. I mean, that's part of life on Earth. It's always different. So I think what Lawrence was saying about us going up there and each of us having the freedom to sort of go a different direction that may surprise everybody else on stage, and then having the trust and the faith to know wherever this goes, we're going to be fine. We're going to find where we're going.
I love that idea of not counting off and kind of arriving at a consensus, in the moment. And it reminds me, there's one of your compositions on this album is titled Antiquity to Outer Space, which of course reminds me of Ancient to the Future.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was intentional.
It's just a fancy way of saying it, Nate.
Yeah. Can you talk about that, sort of like the experimental tradition as it's expressed in this band? Because it's so really on every song, but in to varying degrees, you're really like completely free, and I think it's beautifully expressed, and what you said about not counting off and improvising your way into a song, I think is a perfect reminder of how integral that freedom is to the expression of this band.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think that, and I want to hear what Joe has to say on this, but in writing that particular piece, I mean, it was definitely coming from our overall theme. And I've been doing a lot of reading about ancient history, hence titles like Pythagoras. And I've been thinking about how the dawn of science connects with what's happening here now, and that is what the title refers to. And I think that's part of the overall theme of what we're thinking about is tying ancient to the future, antiquity to outer space. But that particular song, there's a progression of events. It starts out very, very simply with very simple intervals, and the intervals start getting more complicated and the rhythms start getting more complicated. And the excitement of the underlying motion in the rhythm section gets more. You can see the quintuplet right on the cover of the record here. It's like it's between me and Joey right now. And so in a very specific sense, that's what I was thinking about when I wrote it, like starting someplace simple. And then as a launching pad into improvisation, I'll just say one more thing. I know I'm going on at length here, but musically, it's interesting that Joe sets up very specific different instrumentations for the improvisations. And I think that forces us to think in a resourceful way and sort of be ready for those different combinations to happen. I tend to not lay that out, but I find that when the pieces are played back to back, we start playing mine that way anyway. And then the other sort of free moving in and out starts to invade Joe's tunes, and he doesn't seem upset about it, so we just go ahead and play.
No,
I love that idea of bleed, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea about, playing together and having a joyous experience is key, and that's what this group is really about for me too, because to have structures and kind of a score that we follow in a certain loose way, but yet the stream of events that happen in the different duets and trio moments that we can break down into. And once you're in, okay, now how are we going to get out of this? And you have to lead and follow. And with us, it's really about the melodies and the rhythm and trying to shape the inner music in a clear way, And once you hit a groove and you sustain it and let it grow into the next moment, things really happen, And playing with Joey and Linda and Lawrence as a rhythm section at times, but like just but not feeling like soloist rhythm section, you know what I mean? Really ever. Yeah. But like my piece, The Flight, is one that is about that journey, But it's like a specific kind of groove that the Joey and Lawrence and Linda play that part like incredible. And it's that was really challenging for me. That was like a piece that was really like there was a lot more specific things that were happening in it, in the whole feeling of it and the rhythm and the form with these 13-bar phrases and a 5-bar moment with just drums. That was fun and really challenging for me, and it was my tune, it's my contribution.
And that tune it reminds me of like someone walking down the street with a really hip walk, there's because it's grooving, but it's grooving in kind of it's got a character to the lope, I love the way that that vamp you've set up for the rhythm section lays against the melodic line. It's really, really cool.
That felt really great, man. And downbeats and offbeats.
Right. Speaking of The Flight and space exploration, who in this band, and maybe it's more than one person, is like the big space enthusiast?
Oh,
Lawrence.
Who is it?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, when I was in maybe first grade, I think, I used to go to the library and just kind of pick up whatever looked interesting. And so, or maybe second grade. Yeah, maybe second grade. And so, I would just go through the shelves and kind of take books out. And one day I came across a book about NASA, and I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I had kind of heard of, like science fiction and Star Trek and things like that. And I wasn't aware that there was a place that you could go to actually kind of be connected to learn about what was going on. And so I was in second grade and I read the book and I looked through it and I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I told my parents, I want to go. But you can't go to space camp in second grade. You have to wait until you're in fifth grade, They don't want to be babysitting, you have to be old enough to kind of look after yourself. And so I waited every year from when I was in second grade until I was in fifth grade. And we had an opportunity to go. And I ended up going to space camp and going through some of the training, like eating some of the astronaut food, going into the cockpit simulator, and we ran a simulated shuttle mission and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, ever since then, I've been enchanted with anything to do with space exploration, space travel, things like that. Even recently, yesterday, I just watched for the first time the SpaceX Starship go up and land. And for me, just seeing where all of that is coming, even going right now, is super exciting. So I don't want to hide, but
No,
sure.
that's fantastic. That's such a killer insight on you. And I had a friend who went to space camp as a kid too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I know some people who grew up in Birmingham and talk about it. What do you make? And I'll open this to everybody. What do you make of the sort of privatization of space travel? Like, what are your feelings about that? That's happening right now, as you say.
All I can say is I hope those folks out there like music.
I have a cousin-in-law. I have a cousin-in-law that works on the whole Mars mission right now.
Oh, wow.
Out in California, he lives out there. Rob Sweet. He's married to my cousin Linda Lombardo. And that's a whole world, man, and it's so beautiful to realize, Wow.
When we did a couple of projects where we were opening for Wayne's quartet, and we were around Wayne, and then he wrote those pieces for us for the first record that we made. And at the time, he had just been inducted into the Planetary Society, I think by Neil deGrasse Tyson. And so it was something that he was talking about a lot. And the titles of the pieces he wrote for us were both from Robert Heinlein novels. So very science fiction related, and really, as he's a great artist as well, visual artist. Just looking at his scores, they're like beautiful pieces of art. So I think that was a big inspiration for us with this band right from the beginning. And it just seemed like, okay, now we're doing this record where Joe and I are going to write all the music. Let's, bring that vision into what the thing is about. And my friend Dave Chisholm is a trumpet player and a cartoonist, illustrator. And I saw a book that he did about Charlie Parker. I've got a print that he made of Thelonious Monk, Brilliant Corners. And I just thought, oh, this is the perfect guy to get to make this sort of futuristic illustration for the cover. And, we were happy that he was able to do it. Having the album on Greenleaf Music, an independent company, is also really important for me. I think that it, we're able to just say the thing exactly the way we want to say it and let the music play out the way we want to. And I think for independent labels, Bandcamp as a platform has been so important. Of course, our distributor is Red Eye worldwide, but Bandcamp as a way for independent listeners to be directly in touch with independent musicians, it's huge. And they've been incredibly generous during the pandemic of waiving their fees the first Friday of every month. It's been, I'm not sure that that's going to continue. But tomorrow, May 7th, happens to be the first Friday. So they're waiving their fees, and it's the day that we're releasing this record. And so we're going to do an additional discount from our side. It's a great day to go pick the record up now that everybody here has heard it. So I didn't intend to go quite so rah-rah on the business side, but there you have it. It is asking about space exploration and this concept of other worlds, being in this independent musical ecosystem these days, I think is also, it's a part of that vision of how we make the music together, with complete freedom as to vision. And
there's more than
hasn't always been that way, as you know, Nate. In different situations, there can be different countervailing pressures on the creative process. So trying to remove that and really do it our way, in the way that all five of us believe it should be. And of course, within five people, they're never going to all agree anyway. So allowing that conversation to happen. I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate that you brought that up, because, when we talk about how artists are surviving in this moment, sustainability is an important question. And having this album on Greenleaf, there's more than one kind of sustainability that is being supported there. So yes, I will say it again, echoing Dave's thought. Tomorrow, this album will be available on Bandcamp and elsewhere, and you should definitely purchase it from Greenleaf Music. And feel free to mention that you heard us talking today, and celebrating this Q&A and celebrating this listening stream. I think we should probably wrap up in a moment, but before we do, and this may be an unanswerable question, but what do you all think about the next time Soundprints will be able to go out on the road, play some gigs? Like, how is that picture looking right now for you?
I think that it's possible there could be something next summer. There's talk of summer 2022 possible dates, but we have to check with everybody's schedules and things. I think it's really early now to try to project.
Joey's got his date book.
Joey's got a.
He's taking notes.
That's why I brought this up.
We're listening.
I'm booking cancellation.
Tell us again. What's the date?
That's what I've been doing so far. But I've said all along, I think 2022 things are going to start to hopefully come back in a certain way. Where we could get out there and address an audience.
Yeah.
I think what I'm seeing is, there's a lot of demand. Obviously, it's too soon to be really going anywhere right now, but it's coming. And as the vaccinations get more and more widely deployed, I think things will be better. I think there's a real hunger of, obviously, on our side to be together and to play. And I think there's also a hunger on the audience side to be in that space and to experience it live. Lawrence and Joey, we're going to be hitting you up for dates. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
But, also, Nate, really interestingly, there's this newfound interest in vinyl. And a lot of people have been asking, when are you going to put this on an LP? So we're thinking about, it would have to be a double LP. So you may be seeing something about that in the fall.
That would be
get this
great.
out.
And
Yeah.
you know, I feel like maybe it's a good moment to shout out. This album was recorded by Tyler McDermott and Jeff Countryman, and even over this album stream, you can tell that this is a beautifully recorded and mixed and mastered album. I feel like Linda sounds just phenomenal on this record, and as does everyone. It's just a beautiful document. So once again, I want to thank all of you gentlemen for being here with us. So thank you to Joey Barron, Lawrence Fields, Joe Lovano, Dave Douglas. Thank you, Greenleaf Music. And I want to thank everyone who has tuned in, on whatever platform you're watching. I also want to mention that there are members of the WBGO board who have joined us today. Thank you for being here. Please support the musicians, support the label. And thank you so much for joining us, joining WBGO in this special event. This has been a really excellent hang. We're all in different spots, but it really did feel like a hang. So thank you all.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nate. Thank
Yes,
you.
Nate.
Thank you.
Joey, thanks for showing up. Lawrence, Joe, great to see you.
Great to see all of you. Mayhan,
Yeah.
wherever you are, Mayhan. Hey, hey.
I think it's like 4 a.m. over there. I don't
She's up. She's mixing her record.
When we can gather, we will.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think aside from the music, we're just looking forward to being able to hang out again. So this is great today.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you
everybody.
again for the music, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for being here. Signing off. Thank you again.
Okay.
Easy now.